Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I'm Pastor Joe Fox. So, a couple stories, a point to discuss, and an action item from our after-action review on the security op we did. I guess we'll do stories first. I'll try to make this one quick. I was in Special Forces, and our commander, our battalion commander, decided he wanted to take all the E7s and above, I think, in the battalion, or maybe all the intel sergeants, team sergeants and up. I think that's what it was. Basically 2 NCOs and 2 officers per detachment per ODA, and then everybody above them rank-wise. And we went to DC. We went to Gettysburg. And we spent 3 days on the battlefield of Gettysburg doing what's called in the military a staff ride, where we walked the battles and different people were tasked with giving different briefings on the different battles and set pieces of Gettysburg, and then take that and draw lessons to the modern world. And as part of that trip, the Vietnam Memorial was fairly new. And our battalion commander decided and initially put out that when we were touring the battlefield in Gettysburg, we would all be wearing BDUs and our Green Berets. And when we went to DC to do a couple things, and we got to go to Congress and blah, 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 we would wear our dress uniform, which was called Class A's. It was a tie and a shirt and a coat and all our gewgaws on it and big shiny boots that we tucked our pants into because airborne. And this was in June, like June 3rd. And it's stinking hot and humid in Gettysburg that time of year. And so a group of NCOs, God bless them, started a campaign because they didn't want to wear BDUs in Gettysburg. And the SF guys are smart. They didn't just come out and say, it's too hot, we don't want to wear BDUs, because that wouldn't go anywhere. Right? And so they came up with the idea that it would be an OPSEC violation. Ooh, does that sound familiar? That, you know, in these times of heightened, and actually this was back in the 90s, early 90s, in these times of heightened terrorism threat and blah, blah, walking around as a bunch of SF guys in uniform in a public venue like that for 3 days in a row might not be the smartest thing in the world. And so they went to the battalion sergeant major and convinced him, and he convinced the old man, the battalion commander, that, okay, we're not going to wear BDUs. Instead, we will wear khaki pants. At the time, there were these pants called Levi Dockers of that type, and long sleeve dress shirts. You could roll up the sleeves if you got too hot. So that was put out, changed to the op order. And they weren't happy with that. So then they said, look, man, it's going to be hot. And if we're out there if we're all in long khaki pants and long sleeve dress shirts, we're going to stick out like a sore thumb amongst all the tourists because it's summertime in Gettysburg and the tourists are all going to have shorts and stuff on. And so they made that argument. OPSEC, bro. And they convinced the battalion commander, and he came back and he said, okay, you can wear shorts, but they have to be dress shorts, meaning they have to be, you know, not cut off Levi's, not what we used to call UDT shorts or PT shorts, or, you know, they got to be like khaki pants that are turned into shorts. And we had to wear collared shirts. Now remember, the main argument was so that we would blend in with the civilians and no one would know, you know, no one would notice us. And so given the parameters that they had to be dress shorts, you know, decent shorts, I call them dad shorts, you know, you wear them at the barbecue on the weekends and stuff, and collared shirts, and, you know, it was so that no one would notice us. To a man, every single guy had on khaki type shorts of, you know, big pocket, cargo shorts. They were just coming out then. So they were like khaki shorts, but they had like a cargo pocket on the leg. polo shirts because they're tight right here on your biceps, baby, and you look good walking around. Polo shirts. Everybody had Oakleys on, Oakley sunglasses that wrapped around. We all had the same haircut, which back then our hair would come like just over our ears. Most of the guys had mustaches down to about there. And we all had, because they were popular at the time, these little hiking boots, you know, the ones that come just over your ankles, and then the little white socks, you know, the little ankle socks that come just up above the boot. And everybody had a knife clipped in their right pocket. And we're trying to blend in, right? And you could tell by looking at us that we were some type of military unit right away. They used the argument of OPSEC. Their real point was they wanted to wear shorts because it's hot. And they succeeded, so God bless them. Put that over here. In my last assignment in active duty military, I was deciding that I wanted to transition to civilian life, meaning I wanted to make civilian friends, people who'd never been in the military. I wanted to do civilian things. I wanted to be able to blend into the civilian world and be as one with the people. And so one day, my kids were at a track meet, and my son forgot his spikes. And so we got the call, and it's like, hey, bring my spikes. So I had on civilian clothes, and I was wearing a pair of bib overalls because I was working in my yard, and I had some kind of hat on, and probably a pair of boots. I don't remember what I had on. And so I'm like, cool, I look like all the dudes out here. And I went to the track meet, and I got in, and my son was on the far side, and so I had to walk all the way around the outside track to get there. And the whole time I'm walking, I'm noticing people noticing me. And so I get there, and I come back, and I'm thinking about that while I'm driving home, because it's about an hour away. And I'm thinking, okay, this was kind of a yuppie high school that they were having the track meet at. And all the dads there were wearing the khaki dad shorts with the polo shirts, you know. And I'm like, okay, that's what everybody's wearing, and I'm looking like hick, you know, redneck hick guy, because out where I lived in the county, that's what people dress like. And so I'll go, so I had to go back later in the afternoon to take them lunch. And so I changed, and I put on a polo shirt, and I put on a pair of dad shorts, and I put on a hat and a pair of sunglasses, and I go walking out there to give him his lunch. Everybody noticed me again. I could see everybody noticing me. And I came home, we were talking about dinner, and I said, this is weird, you know, da-da-da-da. And my daughter, my little girl said, well, yeah, Dad. And the other two kids are nodding. My wife's even nodding. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you walk through a crowd, you look at everybody like you're going to kill them, and everybody notices that. And I'm like, yeah, I do have a way of moving. I had some jobs in the past where I really had to blend in, and I had forgotten the lessons I'd learned from there because I had left those jobs, gone to more conventional special forces jobs, and where, you know, kick down the door and shoot somebody in the face. And so, type jobs, go work with foreign nationals in other places, and bugs. And so I tried to be more mellow, man. I guess I'm telling you 3 stories. Then I was a civilian for several years. I had and I was a pastor. I had a big dark beard down to here. And my elder died unexpectedly in an ultralight accident. And so he was an active duty special forces colonel. And so there was a funeral on the fort. It was a military funeral. And they called all the SF guys on this fort, and there were several, and made them ask them, they would have volunteered anyway, to be part of the funeral in one degree or another. Pallbearers, escorts, blah, blah, blah. And this colonel, this SF colonel, was friends with very high special forces generals, like personal friends, which brought general officer attention down, which then made the fort commander very nervous because generals are coming to this funeral. And I was presiding over it, But we were working very closely with the military chaplain, and he's very nervous because he's got the post commander breathing down his neck, and these 3 and 4 stars are coming to it, and he's just all blah, 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 blah. And at one point, we were walking down a hallway in this huge, they call them chapels, but it's like a huge mega church kind of thing on the post. And the chaplain, who was very nervous around all these special forces guys, I noticed. And I'm just wearing, I don't know, like probably a dress shirt and khakis, right? And my big beard. I'm a civilian now. And all the guys knew I was former SF. But we're walking down a hallway. Because the chaplain's like, come on down here, I'll show you where we're going to put the widow, and you know, while she's waiting here, we have an area set aside for her and refreshment stuff. I'd like to show you that. So we go walking down this hallway following the chaplain, and I had literally changed the way I stood and walked in the 6 years I'd been retired, because I was trying really hard to blend in. And when I'm walking down the hallway with these SF guys, I just fell into the stride where you just project this psychic bubble out around you that, you know, I own this space. And it's just like, it's kind of like in that movie. It's one of my favorite scenes in all movies, in Kill Bill. I think it's Kill Bill. Lucy Liu comes walking in with her posse, and the way they film it, they just like flow. And I thought that was really cool. And it was kind of like that. I'm like, and as I'm walking with these guys, I'm like, I remember walking like this. So blending in on this operation we did, my intent was that we don't start no stuff. And so to not start no stuff, you don't want to be in an overtly aggressive mode until it's time to get overtly aggressive. It's always easier to hit somebody if you start out from a very calm, smiling, and then you hit them manner, right? It's like, da-da-da-da, boom! But if you're all like, what? What are you saying to me? Ah, they're expecting you to hit them, right? And that applies on all kinds of things. There's a tidbit there. And so I told everybody, show up in, you know, don't come looking like a commando. Just be very low vis. We want to blend in with the civilians. I didn't say civilians, I said with the locals there. And we brought gear and equipment with us, but we did not make that immediately known. So when the video you saw, the intent there was for guys just to be in place where they needed to be to react to things. Everybody CCWs, but it's CCW, concealed. And one of our after action review comments, and it's going to be a training event or 3, is we failed at that miserably. We picked out so there's this city, very small city, and there's all kinds of groups of people, and we stood out. And I'm looking at my picture in the camera right now because we look like this. Now, there are men all over the Ozarks with beards that look kind of like this one. Shorter, longer, whatever. Men all over the Ozarks wear t-shirts. They wear hats. And yet, if you see somebody who looks like me, because this is what I'm comfortable in, it's like, oh, that guy switched on. You want another story? I'm going somewhere with this. They're all gray man stories, but in the early days of a certain counter-terrorist unit, I talked recently about, maybe I didn't, maybe I deleted that video. They had their own counterintelligence unit assigned to them, who was making sure that what they did was still secret. And so this unit was going to be sending a group of guys to South Korea to do a training exercise. They're going to go to South Korea and do a training exercise. And so their counterintelligence team went to South Korea and talked to intelligence people there, locals and others, and said, hey, we have a group of 20 guys coming in to this airport on this day. They may come in 1s, 2s, 5s, 10s, whatever, but we have 20 guys coming to this airport. They may be coming from anywhere. And we would like you to identify them for us. See if you can. I said, oh, good. This is a good operation for us, too. They liked it. And so, you know, in airports, if you ever notice, there's a lot of places with mirrors up high, and there's cameras everywhere. There's people behind those mirrors. And this was back in the early days. There wasn't the technology that there is now. And so there's people behind there. And what they did is they took pictures of every American male that came into the airport that day. This is what the intel services did. Every American male that came into the airport that day, they took pictures of. So they have how many pictures? A bazillion. And then they start going through them. And exercise goes on, exercise is over, the counter intel guys go to the intel guys, and they're like, hey, so what'd you come up with? And they said, well, out of everybody, we narrowed it down to this 50. And if we had to pick, we'd say these 20. 100% right. And these guys came in separately in pairs from all over, civilian clothes, long hair, you know, whatever. And they got every one of them. And they were flummoxed. Like, how did you do that? And the head guy goes, do you issue them New Balance tennis shoes? And in fact, they had, and that was the final discriminator. All the guys had their brand New Balance tennis shoes on. There were many other things too, which was very useful because then they went back and changed those things. And one of the jokes going around the community at the time was, we're going to have to invent prosthetic bellies. Because, you know, these are like 30, 35-year-old men who are incredibly fit. And they move with a certain athletic grace. And if you ever spend time in an airport or in a coffee shop on a busy street where lots of passersby are passing by, the average American is not very fit. And they don't move with athletic grace. And so when you see a couple guys moving, it sticks out. No matter what they're wearing. Blending in. I'll share this. I told everybody concealed carry, and you know what? Not everyone did. Some people carried openly because they didn't have concealed carry holsters. I said I'm not in favor of open carry in public. I don't see most of the Shofarians in public. I see them here. They can carry whatever they want, and I don't care. So we have to address that. The other thing was, even our women, except for one woman, have a look. They have a look. Whether it's the style of purse they choose to carry, or the shoes they're wearing, or how they carry themselves with alertness, all the guys have a look. If you go back and look at that video, you can just kind of look at the guys in the video. They all have a look. This is the look. This is how we identified the other mags. It's like, hey guys, how you doing? I think it's the crunch down, you know, bill on the hat. It's the general fitness level. It's the general aggressive body posture. I'm telling you, you can pick out Americans overseas like that because Americans walk around like we own the world. And we're loud as a people. Hey, Bob, over here! And in a lot of cultures, people don't walk that way. And when I was in those cultures, I was trying to blend in, and I was thinking about it all the time hard because you're scared of getting identified. That helps. Being the prey helps to blend in, by the way. Whereas here, we don't feel like prey, right? We feel like predators, and then you act like a predator. The bags we brought our stuff into the building were noticed quickly by the local police. The first thing they noticed is that a whole lot of us showed up at once to one parking lot, and they were buzzing around their town looking for hot spots of activity, and then they see all these guys and some women get out, and, you know, tactical colored bags and rifle cases and stuff start coming out of cars and pouring into a building. They didn't initially know who we were. That's a potential problem for them, right? So they notice that. So we're talking about, okay, we need to come up with some more discreet ways to transport all this stuff. Just transporting, and again, it's how far do you want to go? Well, for me, for training purposes, I want to go all the way. And so if you have all this stuff, and again, I'm not going to get into that, what that stuff is, but you have all this stuff and you need to move it. Any group of people moving a lot of stuff draws attention. But picture this, if you had a Ryder truck pull up and two guys get out with bob on circles on their shirt and a hat, and, you know, one side of their shirt's untucked and it's a little bit dirty, and they get a clipboard out and a dolly and they load boxes on and they take it into a business, no one's really going to pay attention to that. Flowing in, flowing out, trying to be discreet, trying to not be seen. A lot of us wear what we wear, me included, because we're comfortable in it. And I don't just mean physically comfortable, we're psychologically comfortable dressed this way. If you want to blend in, and this is turning into a Gray Man video, I didn't really know where it's going to go. I said this in my Gray Man video a couple years ago. You need to look at what people like you look like. And by like you, I mean race, age, sex. So, 58. What do 58-year-old white guys look like here? Well, the way you know that is by looking at a lot of them. Now, some things you can't get around. You know, how you're built is how you're built. But how you carry yourself can change drastically. I mean, it's even hard for me to do that. I can stand like this. Stand like this. But look and try and dress like them. That's the best advice I have for you. But you should think about it. You should think about how you're projecting. Sometimes projecting is a good thing. It's a defense mechanism, right? And we wanted to be very low visible and only become visible if we needed to. We were clearly noticed, right? The very liberal California type people next to us who were handing out water were intimidated by us at first, just by us being there. We didn't have any gear or guns or anything visible at that point. They were intimidated just by our demeanor. Then they asked us to watch their purses for them. Whatever. But give that some thought. There may come a time when your very life, your lives depend on blending in, not necessarily being the Gray Man. You know, you could dress like a clown with a whole handful of balloons and everybody in the world notices you, but it's part of the parade, and so nobody really notices you. You know what I mean? Give thought to that. Start paying more attention to your environment, and if you think you're projecting a different look, take a couple days and practice trying to blend in with everybody else. Try to notice people noticing you or not. Like I said, your life could depend on it sometime. We were certainly noticed, even in civilian clothes, without guns visible. The guys with guns visible, we hid them for a while. We were noticed. It worked out good, and I think it actually worked out to our benefit. Like I said, sometimes that can work for you, but our intent was not to do that. And so we failed in that intent. And there could be a time when it's important. So, start thinking about that. What do you look like? Do you look like everybody else? Can you look like everybody else? If you had to infiltrate a leftist march, could you do it without anybody calling you out? Could you? How do you know? If you're a leftist, you can call me a rightist. That's okay. If you're a very liberal politically person, could you infiltrate a pro-gun rally or a Proud Boys event and pull it off? Some of it is physicality. I was watching, a year ago, 2 years ago, a lot of Proud Boy videos. And man, a lot of those dudes look like rugby players, right? They're like, with tight polo shirts on. And, the little skinny, effeminate Antifa soy boy is going to have a real hard time fitting into that. But you know what? Some of those Proud Boys are skinny guys too. They just carry themselves totally differently. Could they switch roles and blend into the other group? The answer to that is yes, you can. Theoretically. But in reality, most people don't want to change, they can't change, and then when they have to, it's too late. Start thinking about that. Try to practice it. All right. I probably will see you out there.